my kid, he's been really sick pretty much since last Thursday. So he's been out of daycare. He had a fever over the weekend that was it was over 104. It's all
And the
controlled.
child can't even communicate or tell you what's going on.
Yeah,
It's
some
rough.
parts of it were really scary. But so what I wanted to really talk about in the bigger scheme of all of that was that I noticed that you really start feeling alone in those moments,
Yeah.
especially when you're not from around here. And you know, you could be from the US, but you may have moved to different parts of the country for your career, and you suddenly realize that the support system around you, yes, we have phones and we have video chats, we can talk to parents and family, but it's still a very lonely experience when you're going through something tough like that, to not actually have that physical support of people around you. And we noticed it a lot, especially this past week.
Man, my experience is so different from yours. Like the whole family aspect doesn't even exist for me, right?
Fair enough.
Like I'm a bachelor and by myself. I'm not in a relationship currently. But the fun part is I've never been in a relationship. I have
Mm.
always been alone. And I think you get used to it. And are there bouts where you feel like, yeah, you're alone? Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes. And that's when friends start becoming like family. But still, you feel that need for a special bond and some level of connection. But when you've been as single for as long as I've been, you become hyper independent.
So the reason I wanted to talk about this idea of loneliness is that it's not just something that, you know, single people experience. It's not just something that people who are in families experience. Like anyone can experience it at any stage of their life. And I remember just the physical toll of it on me. It's an emotional thing. It is a psychological
Yeah.
feeling. But even just emotion, that feeling then translates into a physical sense of being unwell,
Yeah.
because you crave it. And for me, one of the things I did, which in hindsight I don't know if it was smart, not smart, is I sought that sense of connection through meeting people on apps, because
Yeah.
it was I didn't, especially after college, like after I was done with grad school, one of the ways to meet up with people, even if it was, you know, on a dating and the pretense of dating, or you know, on the front of actually going out on a date, it was still you're doing something with someone else. You're maybe going and checking out a restaurant that you've never been to with someone else. You're talking to someone you don't know, and you're connecting. So,
Yeah.
and I remember while I was doing that, there were actually a lot of people I was meeting, and I was actually more, I thought I was out there dating, which is what I wanted to do. But
Yeah.
then I started meeting people who told me that, you know what, it's been really hard to make friends since I graduated or since I moved to the city.
Yeah.
And I actually use the dating apps as a way to meet people. And, you know, if
Yeah.
it turns into something, it turns into something. If not, it was fun.
I mean, it would be nice if you're upfront about it. Like,
Mm.
if you truly are going with the intention that there might be some possibility and you're okay if nothing pans out, that's great.
You're pretty hyper independent, or you've learned to be. Do you see that being in any way a blocking thing for you as far
For
as
sure.
meeting people or connecting with people?
Yeah. It's
In
not a
what
good
way?
thing.
In what way
It's
has
not a
it
good
played
thing
out?
because yeah, you get so comfortable being with yourself that that need to have another person is very rare. Like when I mentioned at the beginning that there are times when I feel that need, it is few and far in between. You know, if there's like a free day and in the evening and I'm by myself for an hour, I'm like, huh, it'd be nice to have someone. But outside of that, I'm like, oh, thank God I do not have anyone because I do not have the time.
Mm.
I can keep myself entertained. I have a lot of things going for myself. Now, do I subconsciously create all of these things to keep myself engaged? Possible. I'm not going to deny that. But I always have my finances, my career, all of that ahead of my personal life. Going for dates becomes such a chore. It's not something I look forward to. Not because
Mhm.
I've had bad dates. Most of the dates I've been to have been pretty good. It's
Yeah.
just that I feel like, oh, I could have been productive with this. But what am I doing? I wasted my time,
Mm,
right?
yeah,
It's not a waste of time. You're trying to find a partner for life.
right. And you can't rush it. You definitely can't treat it like a
Mm-mm.
productivity thing where you're going to sit and, like, I'm going to measure all the metrics of this date and see if it's going to
No,
work out or
absolutely
not.
not. And I don't do that. When I'm at the date, I'm at the date. But you know what? There's a sense of regret the next day.
That you
I'm like,
went on the date.
shit, man. Like that I wasted half a day on this.
Mm.
I went on a
Because it didn't
fantastic
work out, or
date.
just because it was a bad date, or just in general.
It was a great date with possibilities.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, shit. I get 2 days that I can do my own stuff, focus on stuff that I want to build outside of my work. And I wasted half a day on a date that might or might not pan out,
Yeah.
which is a horrible way of looking at it. But I think that's what hyper independence is, where you do not prioritize finding love, finding someone for yourself, finding a personal life, because you're like, I am fine.
Yeah.
I and you know me. I think we spoke about this last time. I think part of me creating a sanctuary in my home is that where I am so content within these four walls that I make it as nice and pretty as possible, as if I'm living in a dream and I don't need anyone else.
And you could never date someone who's messy or is going to come in and mess even the
Oh God,
aesthetic of
no.
your home.
Oh God, no. No,
That should be a
absolutely not.
litmus test, if you're bringing someone home to see.
That's not a litmus test. Most people come in and they're like, "Oh, great place." The litmus test is when I go to their place, how they've kept it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's actually a good point. Yours, because that's so important to you.
Tomorrow's Friday, all right, and I had planned a lot of things. Now I have invitation from a friend because they're trying to celebrate someone's birthday, and I have a date. I had said yes to the date, and now this came along, and I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I want control of my own time, and I'm thinking of ditching both so I can work on my own shit.
Because why? Though that's the part that's important for me to
I
understand.
enjoy my own company.
You enjoy it more than other people, or as an absolute? It's good to enjoy your own company, nothing wrong with that. But you're now putting that up against.
Social life, and your love life. Yes, It's just that I feel when I'm giving away my time to somebody else, I get really mad. I get pissed. These are my friends, and this is somebody who could be a lover, but I feel pissed that I'm not in control of my time.
And as far as having control of your time, let me tell you about this. When you have a kid, you know, when you have a kid, Sandeep, there's a totally different sense of what that looks like, because even just
Yeah,
being able to get a half an hour to go to the gym, or you want to play guitar, or
yeah.
go out and meet people. I got an invite to go out to meet people for drinks after work the other day, and on my schedule and it's a last minute thing. They're like, hey, we're going to go grab drinks after work,
Baby's
you want to do it?
invited.
Exactly. I have to go pick up my kid from daycare. So it's just one more thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just a different stage of life.
Yeah.
You see the reason why people with kids hang out with other people with kids, because we're speaking a different language almost when it comes to events and things we can do.
It's an unsaid understanding. You know what's going on, which as single or people without children will never understand. It's like between the generation before us and the one after us, for some reason, we are called the loneliest generation because we're not getting married, we're not having kids, we're not successful at finding partners, and people are single.
Yeah, I think my personal assessment of that is, I think the basis of the connection or good connection used to be values a lot more. So the initial connection that you made with someone, and even for me, when I moved here, when I first went to grad school, I remember there's a group of kids who were from a certain part of the country that I was from, that talked about, hey, you know what? We actually go to this church nearby, and
Yeah.
I'm not super religious. I was brought up religious in a religious environment, kind of. But so I knew that, we'd been to church. I kind of understood what goes on, but I didn't understand why so many people gravitated towards that when they moved to places. It's because for a lot of people, that's the first place they're going to find people who at least they know, yeah, we
Yeah.
believe in this one thing together, community.
Exactly. I was going to say, what is religion at the end of the day? It's just community.
And I think that's where people are learning that through these apps. Yeah, we're connecting. We might date for a bit, and you're just, it's like a Rolodex of let's see who's next, and you're shooting in the
Yes.
dark, trying to figure out which one's gonna stick.
Yep.
And yeah, the consequences, loneliness in the meantime for a lot of people while they're figuring that out.